always a deep conversation when we begin to discuss Eastern and Western concepts, and generally a great opportunity to get caught into, I think, patterns of dualistic thinking and creating a sort of us versus them mentality, which I see often shows up tremendously in the modern day conversation around medicine and therapeutics. I think there's a highly competitive nature to who's got the best system, and whether it's even within Eastern and Western ways of viewing things. So the framing of the question geared really towards fascia. And for me, fascia, similar to the earth element, because it is included in the earth element, the stomach and the spleen, specifically the spleen, is the networked webbing, interwoven interconnectedness of all things. So in essence, it is the physical structure that encapsulates that which cannot be spoken of. So whether we call that divinity or the Tao or Qi, a variety of phenomena that is communicated to itself relationally through the structure of the fascia, is one of the great, for me personally, one of the great discoveries within the last century of how the body actually works and how it operates. Now, from an Eastern-Western standpoint, I think it's really important to recognize the history again of how the East in general had a much more holistic way of approaching the body and the organs, recognizing that there are parts to it, that there are breakdowns, that there is a difference between the finger and the eyeball. You know, it isn't just all one. And yet, when there is a way of healing or utilizing medicine, they have maintained, and I'll say specifically the Daoist, but I think this is true within many of the Eastern traditions of medicine, a relational understanding of how, when you affect or you target one thing, it has an effect on all things. The West, over time, particularly when we started to cut things apart and utilize anatomy and the breakdown, very reductionist way of getting smaller and smaller and smaller to understand how the body functions and operates. And there is tremendous value in that. Where I think that breaks down a bit, though, is when you lose sight of how it's all connected. That in reducing things down and thinking that if one molecule is the linchpin or the key to creating a cure, a solution to a problem, my experience is that often all the other things don't matter as much. That only that is the key to creating a fix for a problem. And as we all well know at this point, the side effects of many of these types of interventions, whether that's surgical, whether that's pharmaceutical, has multiple ramifications in arriving at that point of the most microscopic or deep chemical or deep even structural level whether that's replacing a hip or antibiotics or some version of a pharmaceutical that's a very high-powered thing, it's often the context in which the whole body and the relationships to all the other things are held haven't always been equally or even partially included in the process, the healing process. And so in that, yes, we may have figured out a solution to the core of the pain or the core of the suffering, yet in the process, we have damaged things along the way. And in my practice, I have seen that a lot, that much of a person's pain later on in life, or even several years later, has to do with a medical intervention that seemingly solved one problem but created a wake of chronic problems along the way afterwards, right? And this is a long explanation of getting back to this idea of fascia, or even we could say the earth element, that which is holding the whole of the experience for an individual or for a community or for a whole population, right? If you forget about the soil, if you forget about in this case, one of the issues we talked about, the scar tissue, the cut itself is the way we cut through the body to get to that deeper aspect matters a lot, and how it's stitched up, and how when we make those kinds of interventions, we need to account for the process both before, during, and after whatever intervention is going on. So comparing those two, I think the future of medicine and what we're already seeing is the awareness that integrating concepts and reductionist theory as well as integrative and holistic theory, all these things matter when it comes to creating or developing the most comprehensive or effective form of medicine that we have now access to with regard to ancient knowledge and modern technology. And I think what we're also seeing is more and more of an awareness of energy, and that the frequencies, the vibrations, the set and setting, the state of mind that the doctor or the support staff, all of these things matter when dealing with the healing process.